Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the WISE Wisconsin Winter Series. And this one is on the retirement transition. And I'm going to jump in with a share screen. And we're going to call it from the beginning. And I hope this all works. Okay. As Sarah mentioned, our guest panelists today are Joan Davis from Dodgeville, Jim Massey from Barneveld, and also Mike Mitchell from Mineral Point. And we're going to be hearing from them in a minute, or maybe a few minutes. So Sarah mentioned that we're going to get to the chance to do some annotating today. And my very first slide is just curious about who's on this big group that we have with us today. And if you are retired, if you plan to retire soon, or you hope to retire someday. So to annotate, this means you get to put a stamp or a star, a check mark, or a heart next to one of these three options on your screen. The annotate bar is usually on the very top of your monitor. And it says, of course, mine doesn't say that. So Sarah or Heather, if you can describe that, because all mine says is I'm screen sharing. Oh, some people have already figured out annotate. Go for it.
Okay, otherwise, if you go up to view options at the top of your screen, it's green, and then there's the black part. Click on that, go down to annotate, and then you can select text, use stamps, but in this case, you might want to write with the draw or use the text option.
Yep, look at that. So we have a really good mix today.
Now you got one guy here that has no idea what the hell's going on. So somebody put me in retired. That's why I'm here. So Joan, help me out, would you?
We'll get you an extra check mark there.
Did you ever have students like me?
We're learning new techniques today. So yeah, lots of retirees, many hopefuls, and then the probably even have a date set right in the middle that plan to retire soon. So thank you for that. Just helps us to kind of see who's with us today. So we're gonna let Sarah or Heather clear the annotations now that we've all figured that out. Many of us have figured that out.
Many of us, yeah.
And there you go. And I'll go on to my next slide. So we know that retirement planning is about more than money. Managing retirement has traditionally been all about the financial aspects or the financial planning part, but the human, the emotional, and the really personal dimensions of retirement weren't usually spoken about as part of that package. So today, we're going to do a little bit of the financial piece, but spend most of our time on other elements of the retirement transition. So if it's time to adjust to retirement, or you're recently retired, or you've been retired for a long time, or it's just this hope that's out there, there is actually a lot of research on this whole subject matter. We know that adjusting to retirement can take some time, and there are a number of elements that you can consider along the way. One of the first ones is to expect many, many emotions. It's a process that people go through naturally when they adjust to retirement. If you're seeing Mike, you can tell what his emotion is about retirement. At first, there could be that feeling of freedom, like you're on a vacation and it's going to last forever. But if that sense of novelty wears off, you may settle into a little bit slower lifestyle. And there could be a stage that involves a lot of, oh no, what did I do? Or maybe anxiety, or maybe boredom, or maybe even feeling guilty for not enjoying retirement as much as you think you should. It's important not to suppress those emotions or deny those feelings. That could lead to unhealthy coping strategies. allowing yourself to experience a wide range of emotions for this life transition, whatever those emotions may be, and look for healthy ways to deal with those emotions. You might find things like walking or reading or writing or hanging out with friends or family might help you deal better with those emotions. Another element to consider is structuring your days. In pre-retirement, you probably had your daily routine down pat. The alarm goes off, you get the shower, breakfast, pack your lunch, out the door by a certain time, and a very similar structure probably at the end of the day. If you thrive with the schedule, you might establish a retirement routine that helps you plan your days. Experiment with various activities and time slots to see how that makes you feel. And it certainly doesn't hurt to write in some time for that newspaper, the cup of coffee, and then regular time for exercise, social activities, volunteer opportunities, those kinds of things. In retirement, your days probably don't need to be rigid, but having a set wake up time or that morning routine can help you feel some normalcy now that you don't have to go to work. Setting goals. Pre-retirement, your work life might have been measured in things like meeting milestones of making a deadline, finishing a project, maybe getting a promotion, or finishing the year in the black, whatever that was for you. Even in retirement, you can still focus on your goals, but they might be a little bit different than they were before. Working on your goals can give you a sense of purpose and accomplish new things that give you that sense of achievement. And goals can be fun. How about growing your friendships? There is a risk of isolation during retirement. After many years of meeting friends and coworkers at work and seeing them every day, it might not be easy to keep up with those you care for so much or those that you hold dear. That can also play into that restructuring your days, your daily routine. You could meet a friend for lunch or go walking or grab coffee with somebody, pick a day and a time and that routine time to meet. If you feel like you really don't have enough people to keep you socially active, take advantage of some extra time in your life to make some new friends. You could check out programs at your church or a local community center, or find a group of like-minded individuals who share an affection for your favorite hobby, whether that's golf or crafts or cooking or whatever it is. And if you like to hang out or spend some time on the computer, Meetup, all one word, Meetup, M-E-E-T-U-P, meetup.com is an online group where you can explore lots of different hobbies and activities. And that could be something in your area, actually in person, or it might be something, a group that you've joined that's a virtual setting. So meetup.com if you're looking for new groups to join. How about an encore job or volunteer role? Who says that retirement has to be one job done and you're leaving the workforce entirely? A number of people do try out the less stressful secondary career, something maybe part-time, may or may not be related to the long-time work history that you've had. Research tells us that retirees who get a bridge job, that's another term for this type of work after retirement, a bridge job, are often in better health, both mentally and physically, and report higher levels of life satisfaction. The other piece of that is the perks of volunteering might also expand your social ties or provide the sense of purpose that you can feel by committing to a cause. It's not only going to boost your psychological well-being, but could improve your cardiovascular health and lower hypertension. Whether you choose to help out at the local library or decide to volunteer at maybe the hospital, look for ways to get involved in your community. Studies show that older adults who incorporate a low to medium level of volunteering in their life report more satisfaction with life and fewer symptoms of depression than those who don't volunteer. So there's my volunteer plug for today. Here's that teeny weeny little piece where we talk about finances. Creating a new budget. Even the best savers might have to take some time to adjust their spending after retirement. In an ideal world, you might have saved enough to last 20 or 30 years. But if you're like most retirees, there's a good chance you might fall a bit short. Figuring out what you need in your new post-career life and what you don't. Establish that budget to see how much money you'll have for entertainment or fun or the causes that you choose to support. And finally, be flexible. You might think that you wanted to spend your retirement painting or cooking or reading, but then find out that all that time spent at home doesn't really fulfill the lifestyle you dreamed about. After so many years in the workforce, you finally have time to experiment with what you really want. There are lots of different ways to spend your time, and fortunately, there's no need to figure it out all right away. It will likely take a fair amount of experimenting to help you find just the right balance of how you want to spend your time. The joy of retirement is that you'll have plenty of opportunities to experiment. It's up to you to decide to design the type of the day or the kind of life that you want to live. So if we think about defining your retirement, there is a counseling psychologist. Her name was Nancy K. Schlossberg, who came up with a psychological portfolio phrase as a way to get people to think about retirement as a career change. Not only are you leaving something, but you're beginning something new. And there are many factors that contribute to helping people negotiate that retirement transition. Based on Dr. Schlossberg's study with retirees, she identified the following ways in which people approach retirement. Some people are continuers. They use existing skills and interests in their retirement. And we have the adventurers who start entirely new endeavors. The searchers explore new options, usually through trial and error. We have the easy gliders who enjoy unscheduled time and letting each day unfold. And we have the retreaters who take time out or disengage from life. Remember, retirement is a transition, and transitions take time. Practice patience and look for opportunities when you're ready for that next phase of your life. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to our guest panelists. I gave them some questions ahead of time. And Mike, if you're not in a big hurry, we'll probably do this in alphabetical order, and we're going to lead off with Joan, and then Jim, and then Mike. And I will share that all three of our guest panelists are from Iowa County. And let's see, I've probably known Joan for, probably close to 20 years, and Jim for probably 30 years, and Mike back to the 20 years. So long relationships with people who have been really important in our community and are coming to us from different career paths. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And Joan, do you want me to read you the questions, or are you ready to just jump right in?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joan, welcome.
Thank you, Ruth. I just want to say good morning and thank you for inviting me. And boy, your slides were spot on. And I almost wish I had this lesson maybe 3 years ago when I started thinking about this path. So great job coming up with all that research. So I just retired in June after being a public school teacher for 34 years. The last oh, thank you for the applause, Heather. That's very kind. The last 31 years, I was in the Dodgeville School District, and I absolutely loved my career, which leads to the next answer. The question was, why did I choose to retire at this point? And I really thought about this a lot. First of all, I made a promise to myself a long time ago that I would leave education while I was still effective and before anyone thought I should leave, because I had seen that happen and I didn't want that to be me. Second of all, I hit the magic number of 57, and so I am eligible for the full pension check from the state of Wisconsin. And any of you that are in that fund, I just want to assure you that the check is large and sufficient and just really a blessing, a real gift. So I'm thrilled about the pension plan. Third, I was elected to the Iowa County Board of Supervisors in 2018, and I love doing that job, and I'm very passionate about it. And I was experiencing a pretty tight schedule between teaching all day and attending meetings in the evenings. And this has allowed me to attend meetings in a more relaxed way and actually join in on more meetings and more committees that I wasn't able to access because some of the committees and groups meet during the school hours. So I'm increasing my county board responsibilities. And excuse me, finally, my 82-year-old mom has started needing me more in the last several years. And I really did not have the time or the energy to give my mom what she needed. So this is also a gift to her. Ruth asked us about our dreams for retirement, which is, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking more like my goals. And last spring, one of my students gave me this as an end of the year gift. I don't know if you can see it. It says, enjoy every moment. And I talked to this little guy not too long ago, and I said, you know, I drink from that coffee cup in the morning, and it just reminds me that's what I'm supposed to be doing during retirement, is enjoying every moment. I found out during COVID that I like being home. I had never been home before, so it's kind of fun to be in your own house and to do yard work and do projects around the house. So that's one of my dreams. And like I said, I'm spending more time with my mom and also my husband, who is not retired. We're finding ways to spend more time together because now I can work around his work schedule. And my other relatives and friends, I'm spending a lot more time. So I think, Ruth, you hit it right on the head about the social engagement. I think being isolated would be very dangerous for me. And I've had to really go out of my way to make a lot of these things happen. And like I said, I have taken on more county board responsibilities, and mostly I have like almost no stress in my life. I'm so stress-free. My Sunday nights are so happy, and it like every day really is like Saturday, which is why Mike was confused about the days of the week, because they do start to run together. The next question was, what's the most exciting thing about being retired? I would say it's that I have choices about how I want to spend my time, and I have flexibility. I'm no longer tied to the school day, which is very, very long, or the school year. I could go on a trip in, October or February. I could, like last week, we went to see my son on a Wednesday, and my daughter said, "Why are you going on Wednesday?" And I said, "Because I can." And I've never had that before. So that is a gift. I used to also have what I call busy brain. I bet a lot of you on the screen have busy brain, where you're constantly thinking of what you need to get done, what minutes you're going to use in the day. And like at 6 a.m., I'm planning ahead for what time I'm going to be able to call the doctor's office or run to the grocery store. I don't have busy brain anymore. And I think it's a tricky path between totally busy brain and no busy brain. So I think it's really important to stay intellectually engaged after you retire. And I've made some choices about how I want to spend my time, my brain time, but it's way less stressful now. I was thinking about how I like to sit with my mom and we literally waste time playing cards or doing puzzles or whatever. And I'm not checking the clock constantly like I used to be. The most difficult thing about this transition for me has been giving myself permission to do less, because I was kind of an overscheduler. Not kind of, I was totally overscheduled. And I've had to really say, it's okay. Like, you can sit and watch Netflix in the middle of the afternoon, and that's not a bad thing. So anyway, the thing that's not been difficult for me is that I have a lot of friends who are teachers who are approaching the same phase in their lives, and both of my brothers as well, who are all retiring at like now, or they just did. So I have a lot of people I can spend time with, and that's been not difficult. That's been great. So the next question is, what's my advice? I have narrowed it down to 4 things. Number 1, you should know why you want to retire, why you're going to retire. I'm not saying you have to tell everyone, because so many people kept asking me, but in your own heart, you should know why you're doing it. I think that'll help define the purpose, and plan for what you're going to do next. 2, I think it's important that you have meaningful things to do with your time. I think my career as a teacher was so full of purpose. I think it would have been dangerous to drop down and have nothing with purpose. It would have been way too much like goofing off and free time for me. So just kind of planning ahead what you're going to do before you stop doing your career, which I'm guessing all of you find a lot of purpose in. 3, like Ruth said, planning ahead for expenses and thinking about how you might change your spending. One thing I did was about 3 years ago, or 3 years before I retired, I started putting a lot of money in my health savings account each month. And now we have enough money so that we can pay our monthly health insurance premium, which is something I had to give up. I gave up really great health insurance at age 57, which was a little scary for us. And so having that extra pot of money in the health savings account really helped lower my anxiety about money. And 4th, if you're a person who has always been saying yes to everything you're asked to do, every task, every responsibility, every volunteer opportunity, you need to practice how you're going to say yes from now on. And one thing I told Ruth this many months ago, when she asked me to join another committee, I have some criteria before I say yes, and it has to be something I have a passion about, or something that has a purpose in our community, or it's just meaningful to me. So otherwise, if it doesn't meet any of that criteria, then I'm saying no, which is empowering. And Ruth asked us to choose from that list of terms a definition about our retirement. I'm a continuer because I'm still very active on the county board, and I'm also a substitute teacher, which is a great way to see kids and colleagues, but on my schedule when I'm ready. I'm an adventurer because I did start a couple of new things, including delivering meals to senior citizens, which has been very fulfilling. And I'm an easy glider because I'm enjoying all this unscheduled time for the first time really in my life. And a few months ago, I read a poem that really resonated with me. And I call this my retirement motto. So I'm going to tell you, the poem is called The Summer Day, and it was written by Mary Oliver. And I bet you'll recognize the very end of it, but I'm just going to read part of it to you, and I'll tell you when I get to my motto. The end of the poem says, I don't know exactly what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed. That's my motto, idle and blessed. She goes on, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Isn't that beautiful? And doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So Mary Oliver, The Summer Day. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Joan, thank you so much. Good insights. And when I was finding my panelists, I was looking for people who came to us from different career paths, and Joan was one of many of my circle who came to us through public service, and that's certainly what teaching is certainly related to. So Joan, thanks for sharing your insights. And I'm going to turn it over to Jim. And for as long as I've known Jim, his middle name has been The Country Today, and certainly something that influences the public, but a different type of employment. So Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you. Jim, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Well, Joan got the easy job. She got to go first. And all these things that I was going to say here, that, but I'll just kind of piggyback on some of them. But as far as where I worked and for how long, I was a full-time journalist for 43 years. The first 9 with the Weekly Dodgeville Chronicle, and the last 34 at the Country Today newspaper, which is headquartered in Eau Claire. I was fortunate to work from my home during 26 of those years of my newspapering career. I worked from home before a lot of people got to work from home. I mean, I started in 1983 working from my house in Dodgeville, sending my stories via an old Apple IIe computer. Some of you people may remember those things. They were like a fancy typewriter. Basically, it was sending my stories. I could watch the lines go across the screen as they would be sending 56 baud, and it was quite the deal. But anyway, it was a good career, and I really enjoyed that. But the time came, our family newspaper, the Eau Claire Press Company, consisting of the Country Today, which was statewide agricultural newspaper, and the Daily Leader Telegram in Eau Claire. We were purchased by a large chain about 6 months before I retired. They didn't even bother using the no change lingo. They began moving people out immediately, and it made me very uncomfortable because good people were being displaced from jobs, and I didn't want to work for the company anymore. So I made plans to retire. I was 64 and a half, I believe I was when I retired. We had enough money saved that we could rely on savings for a bit until I reached the full retirement age of 66, and then took Social Security and had a couple of other income streams to get us through. So even though I had a heart and soul invested in the Country Today for 34 years, and 23 of those as editor, I felt it was the right time to walk away there. So I'm currently in the middle of a second retirement. We moved back to our home farm in 2003. We began a grass-finished beef business, raised some steers on our pasture here, and sold meat directly to consumers. And we had about 54 customers at last year. We decided after about 15 years of that it was time to retire from that too. So I've passed my customer list on to a nice family, and we're renting our pastures out this year. So now we'll be able to maybe go someplace between April and November, when we kind of had to stay home and make sure the cattle weren't out in someplace, and that the water was working. So that's a good thing. And as far as dreams for retirement, as I think maybe Joan said, every day is Saturday, but I guess I have yet to feel like that in retirement sense. Could be probably because of being stuck with the cattle, but we have been able to do a little bit more traveling since I retired. My wife, though it doesn't have the same retirement or same travel goals as I do, she says she's done with international travel. We've had a few places we've gone, but there's still a lot of the United States to see. I mean, there's all these beautiful national parks out there that we want to get to someday. And someday you can't wait always for tomorrow. You've got to do some of these things now. So we just got back from Florida just 10 days ago after putting 3,200 miles on our van to visit family and spend some time in the sun. So that's good. So and we also, of course, value our our 3 children and 3 grandchildren and be devoting more time to them. So that's one of our priorities. As far as exciting about retirement, my wife would say that I'm not retired, that I'm not very good at it, but I have picked up some freelance writing with the Wisconsin Agriculturist magazine and University of Wisconsin and College of Agriculture. So after writing about 10,000 stories over 43 years, it's not easy just to give up those interactions you have with people. Agriculture is kind of like a fraternity out there. You go to all these conferences and meetings, and you get to know all these people, and then just to not go anymore, it's not that easy. But shortly after retirement, I became chairman of the Upland Hills Health Board of Trustees, which is our local hospital here in our community. And hospitals have had a few things on their plates for the past couple of years, so it's sort of been like a part-time job with no pay. It's not, well, I do it for the pay because obviously there's none. But it's as I think Joan used the word meaningful. That's to me that I feel I'm doing something that's important for the community. So I'm also heavily involved with the Kiwanis Club. I've been a member of Kiwanis for 42 years, including Dodgeville and Eau Claire. And I'm involved in the Knights of Columbus in our church, and I volunteer regularly with a food distribution program here in town, and a couple other volunteer efforts. So that's why my wife says I'm not retired yet. But those things are, I guess they're volunteer things for the most part. So they are retirement. So I think if I sat around and did nothing, it would not be good for me. So I have started to play a little more golf, but doesn't mean I'm any better, but at least I get to play golf. So one of the most difficult parts about retirement for me is, as again, I mentioned, the interaction of people in agriculture. It's been difficult, but yet I still go to the World Dairy Expo and just stop in to see the folks and go to some of the different things that I used to, and the stories I've been doing have been able to get me out and about a bit. So I think I still have that busy brain that Joan had talked about there some. So as advice for soon to be or new retirees, again, the meaningful word that Joan had used was one of mine I had written down here, and I know that's different for everyone. It's meaningful to you could be spending more time with your family. That is important to me. It might be meaningful to be contributing to an important cause that you believe in. In my case, it's the hospital board. And there are only so many people who have time to devote to something like this. We have 10 people on our hospital board. 8 of them work full time, and I know that they'd be hard pressed to put in the time and the hours that I do because I'm retired. So it's important that you do something that you can feel that you're devoting your time to something that is meaningful. Retirees can have a lot to give to their communities, for example, last summer, my wife and I attended a class reunion for graduates from our high school who have graduated for 50 or more years. And we finally reached that threshold. We were 50 years away from our high school class. And it was announced at the end of the meeting, they announced that organizing the next meeting will be Jim and Ann Massey. So, I mean, it's like, they didn't ask, they just said, next year, you're doing it. I mean, but I guess, sometimes you just get, they know that retirees have time to certain things and certain people who can get things done, I guess. But again, I would advise people to think carefully about what you say yes to when you're in retirement. I didn't have a choice in that one. I mean, I'm in front of 150 people and they announce my name that I'm doing this. But most cases, that is not the case. You get the chance to think about it and say, well, yeah, that's something I want to do, or maybe not. I don't want to do that. So, but you have that opportunity. So, how I would define my retirement, I'd say I'm primarily a continuer because I'm still using my journalist skills to continue writing on a freelance basis and staying involved in my volunteer activities. I remember once talking to the president of our company in Eau Claire about my membership in the local Kiwanis Club, and at that time, there were 230 employees in our company, and there were 2 of us who were involved in service clubs. And it just got to me that I've been involved in the service club since I was 21, or you got 21 probably with JCs, and then the Kiwanis, and it's always been ingrained in me throughout my adult life to give back to the community and to help others. And so I just wish that I guess more people had that, because there's so many things out there that are in need of help. So, and I also would say I'm a searcher, as I said, we're going to hopefully explore this great country of ours in the years ahead. And there's so many years that we have allotted to do this kind of thing. And my son once told me, he says, with all this technology out there and the new medicines, he says, you could live to be 120. I says, well, I'm going to have to go back to work because I don't think I have enough retirement money for that. So, but anyway, we'll see. I kind of doubt the 120 thing anyway, but so I guess we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we can all be hopeful. So I'll leave it at that.
Jim, thank you so much. As I put this panel together, I found out that these 3 actually know each other, even though they're from different communities, but I think a lot of their values are very similar. So Jim, thanks for those comments. And when I think of the word service, I do think of Mike Mitchell, and Mike and I actually live just a couple blocks apart in Mineral Point, and I think he knew our son before you knew Hawken, Mike, I think before you knew us.
Yes,
so
I did.
Yes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Mitchell. And Mike comes to us as a recent retiree from a family-owned business. So not public sector, not corporate, like Joan's career path and Jim's. So with that introduction, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, glad to be here. And I know everybody on this panel knows that we had our hardware store. We started in 1910 by my grandpa Clarence Mitchell, and my dad took over in 49 when his dad was ill. He had a college education. He was going to teach. He had to come back, raised 11 kids off that hardware store. And then in 1978, we incorporated, my 2 brothers and I, 2 of my 7 brothers came back with me to run the hardware store, and we incorporated in Mitchell Hardware and the Sons of Mitches. And of course, as you all know, I'm the biggest son of Mitch, and I always will be. There's never been any question about that. My dad goes home to tell my mother about that, and she wasn't very happy about it. But my dad says, Ruthie, daughters of Mitch's just doesn't have the same ring to it. So we ran that business until a year or 2 ago. We decided to retire. We had to liquidate the hardware store. We had to liquidate the carpet store. But it was tough, but not that tough. I had geared myself to do it. I planned on working until 70, which is going to be this year sometime. But it got to be to where my grandkids were coming into the world, my children were growing up, and I wanted to do something more than work 6 or 7 days a week. And we decided to liquidate. And it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that hard to sell all the stuff. And my parents had died within 4 months of each other 10 years ago. And I decided then, when we got rid of all the stuff, I told them I didn't need any of this stuff to remind me of my parents. You know, all the memories I had were not invested in any stuff. But they taught us to move on, get the work done, don't complain, find the next job. So it was tough to see Mitchell Hardware go, but we had great solace in the fact that many people said, boy, we sure miss your hardware store. We wish it was still there. I'm sure, Ruth, you feel the same way.
Every day.
And I still get calls. Yeah. And, you know, I miss having the hardware store, but I don't miss running it one bit. But I decided that it was time to retire. I was getting to be at the age where I didn't want to be there the whole time. I was lucky enough to have my own schedule. But like they say, when you're running your own business, or Jim, like you with your new business there, you can name your own hours. Just pick out 8 or 10 on Monday, you know, to 12 or 14 on Tuesday, and that's how it goes. But I had a wonderful support system. I got brothers that worked hard. We were all in agreement that we would end the hardware store there. But we've enjoyed it. We had to sell the 4 buildings, so we were still working there for 2 or 3 years, fixing them up, getting them sold. My son and I bought the big carpet building, so I still have rental units down there. So I'll have stuff to do for the rest of my life. So I get a little income there. And it also has a big garage on the back, and we don't have a garage at home. So my wife's got her Jeep in there, and you know, our Jeep, I should say. So we're happy to be there doing that. I was happy to retire. I spent most of the time with my wife. When COVID came around, we were together all the time. We were very stringent on taking care of the protocols with that. But I have a schedule I like to keep, and we get up every morning and we have coffee, and no matter what's going to happen during the day, if it's a horrible day coming up, or I got to make a decision on selling a building, or I got to go to, I know I get up in the morning, have coffee with my wife, and she's retired now too. She's 5 or 6 years younger than me, and we were able to work that out because she had a wonderful job with the state with wonderful benefits, but the fact that the old man was 65 and the government could pay for my insurance, she was able to retire. And like you, Joan, she had money saved up to take care of her insurance until she's 65, and she took early retirement. And financially, we're not the richest people in the world, but we're going to make it. And my wife loves to travel, and we love seeing our grandkids, and I've had no problem adjusting to that. I always try to get something lined up for the next day, what we're going to do. My wife says, what do you got planned for today? And if we're doing stuff together, we do. If not, she has plenty of stuff to do. And people say, Mike, what's it like not having to work? I said, I retired, I didn't get divorced. My wife has plenty of things for me to do, and we remodel our kitchen, remodel our bathroom. So I've been lucky. There are many things in town, as you know, Ruth, that we could be involved in. I thought I'm going to start getting off boards, and I quit the park board, and I was on that for 45 years, but I joined 2 other boards to help out. But they're fun boards. It's not the school board. I was president for 6 years for our school board, and I'm not going to get on that board, and I'm not going to get on the hospital board, Jim. I'll get on the boards that are a little, they're tough boards to be on. And Joan, as a teacher, I sure appreciate what you've done, and Jim, all the stuff you've done for your community and for the information you give out there. And I still like to be involved in all the stuff in Middle Point. Be working at the Opera House tonight. We got wonderful entertainment going there. I was able to get my lifeguarding license renewed a couple of years ago. As you know, I'm lifeguarding at Land's End. And sometimes it's not real busy there, Joan. This story is for you because I never read a lot. I was a big athlete, you know, and I got my grades that I had to do, and I got through college, but I never read a lot. And the joke was with my kids, I've read 3 books in my life. Jim Thorpe, Indian Athlete, and The Great Houdini twice. So, but now that I'm at Land's End, there are lulls there, maybe a couple hours during the whole time where there's no one there. So I take a book. My Aunt Teresa's an avid reader, and I finished up a book last week, and I read another short book, and I'm on my 3rd one in 2 weeks. So I'm doing, in 2 weeks, I'm doing as much as I did in damn near 70 years. But I'm enjoying reading. I'm going to write a book, and it starts out quickly. The title is, It All Started Back in 1952. Bob and Ruth Mitchell gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. I'm actually the 3rd born, but oldest of 7 boys and 4 girls. John, Tom, Todd, Tim, Bill, Meg, Mark, me, and Mark. Yes, we were Catholic, or as Dad would say, sexy Methodist. And just one other thing I'd say is, even though we had that many kids, you'd think there was favoritism, but there wasn't. Mom and Dad loved us all the same. They just expected us to act like Mitchells, which gave me a lot of leeway. So I'm using that Mitchell thing. My dad was a wonderful influence in my life, as well as my mother. He worked hard all his life. When he retired, my 2 brothers and I took over the business, so he had no transition problems to worry about. We bought stuff for him. He had a wonderful retirement, and we made the last payment for the building the month he died, on his, just shy of his 92nd birthday. So I was happy to do that. It's been a family thing. We've always worked hard. We've always taken care of each other, and just like you said, Ruth, at the beginning, and the same with you, Joan, I've been able to rekindle some friendships that I had at lacrosse when I played there. We had our 50th class reunion here. Some we lose some classmates, and you just rethink that type of stuff. We haven't had a family reunion in quite a while. My wife and I just talked about it. We're going to try to get one lined up for this summer, you know, to get everyone back together. So it wasn't tough for me to retire. I go by the hardware store and I don't feel bad about it. I have wonderful memories. I smile when I go by. But you fill your day with stuff to do, but it's stuff you want to do. And went to the movie with my grandson last night in Madison, and that was fun. At the drop of a hat, my wife will be in the car up to Minneapolis to take care of Kelly, Joe, or Molly, or Chicago to take care of Claire, or in Madison to take care of Mikey and his family. So I have no regrets there. I have a wonderful wife who, if it looks like I don't have anything to do, she'll put stuff on my plate. So I'm a lucky man, and it's something I thought about, for the last 4 or 5 years of working, and I discussed it with my wife, and we worked things out, and everything's fallen into place pretty well. So,
Excellent.
yes.
Mike, thanks so much. You can really see these, the passion for family, the passion for service, the commitment to the community with all of our panelists. And I think we got the right people back together today, or all together today. So thanks. And don't go anywhere, because there might be some questions. But as we transition into that, I wanted to do a quick, if I can find it. Come here, share screen. I'm going to jump back to share screen, and I'm going to invite our participants. If I can make this move. There. I'm going to turn this back to our participants on the screen, about 5 dozen or so people today around the state. If you know where that annotate button is, here's your chance to let us know if you think you are a continuer, an adventurer, a searcher, an easy glider, or a retreater. If you're already in retirement, where did you land? And if you're thinking about retirement, where do you think you'd be? And I'm seeing some little annotates popping up on our screen. And yep, you figured out how to use the pen.
You're not talking to me when you say that. I could have a 5-year-old to tell me how to run this computer.
Yep, all over the board. Not a lot of retreaters though, as we're seeing these annotates pop up on our screen, but a lot of searching going on, a lot of continuing, some adventurers out there, and others who just really enjoy that unscheduled time and letting each day unfold. So thank you for that. So if anybody out there has questions, comments, or something circling in your mind for any of our panelists today, or about my opening comments, now is your chance. You can pop something in the chat and one of my colleagues will read that for us, or just take yourself off mute and ask away. Any questions out there? I see a raised hand from, I'm not even going to pronounce it, GRABWMCA. Question or comment? Or maybe the raised hand was unintentional.
Joan, I have one question for you. Did the COVID situation enhance your decision?
No, but a million people asked me that. So no,
Okay.
I was going to do it anyway. COVID
Okay.
wasn't fun, but I was planning on end of
All right.
2021 anyway.
Just curious.
I see a good question from Jane that none of us addressed. Ruth, is it okay if I jump in? And
Yep, jump right in.
so I actually had a shoulder injury and had to start going to physical therapy this fall. And when I was doing physical therapy, I discovered that, and Jim already knows this, there's a beautiful exercise facility in the basement of our hospital. I had no idea that I could have a membership. I thought I had to be, disabled in some way. And it turns out they have a senior citizen discount too. So it's super affordable. And my husband joined with me, and we have been going there to exercise, but mostly I look forward to walking outdoors. And these last few days in Iowa County have been lovely. So
Jim or Mike, how do you keep physically active?
I walk every day. I'll take the dog out, and then when I'm over at Land's End, if there are people in the pool, I'll walk around the pool.
Hmm.
I can get over 4 miles walking in over at Land's End. And then I'm able to swim over there too. My mother was an avid swimmer. I could swim before I could walk. I could sing before I could talk. So, but we walk every day. So.
Good.
I try to get out and walk every day too. And when we had our cattle, and we were still going to have cattle out on our pasture, I'll be out moving fences and just staying active that way. So it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah. I saw something else in the chat that there are strong bodies classes through Extension, and checking in with your ADRC for different types of programs that can help you maintain strength, flexibility, and endurance. But I think there's a lot of walkers out there. Any other questions that you have for our panelists?
I would note that when you retire, like I did, I was working out of my house here, and this my office became a spare bedroom. So when I get really tired, I can just go back and take a nap. So that's nice to have too.
I can't tell you in the last 2 years how many bedrooms we have seen all over the state.
I have a question. Do you ever feel guilty about saying no to things when people ask you to do things, and how do you deal with that?
I would love to answer that. And I also saw the question about spiritual life. I'm going to tell you those things go hand in hand for me. I am really working hard to, like I told you, have that criteria, and I don't feel guilty. I guess I felt a little guilty saying no, like they've asked me to substitute a few times and I've said no, but mostly I'm making sure that the things that I do are meaningful. And my spiritual life has always been quite healthy, but I am finding it's easier. Like Mike said, I have more time for reading, but I also have more time just for contemplating and praying. And, when you're praying in a hurry because you're afraid you're going to fall asleep, that isn't as enjoyable as just praying and really being able to get all the way to the end of the prayer. Do you guys have ways of dealing with guilt when you say no?
I don't feel.
I don't. No, go ahead, Jim.
I was just ever since I became chairman of the hospital board, I've said no to a lot of things.
Right.
I mean that's I don't feel guilty about it because I'm doing something that is important and meaningful, and I can just say no, I can't take that on right now because I'm doing this, and so that's what I do.
I still say yes a lot, but it's a yes to things I want to do. And of course, I'll take you to the movie, and of course, I'll buy your popcorn. But it's all good stuff. But we still help out people we can help. My wife and I have more time to see that there might be somebody who needs a meal, someone who needs some clothes. And Joan, you probably saw it every day in school, and I saw it every day at the hardware store. But when we see it, we help out and we say yes to things like that, and we'll still keep doing that no matter how old I get. So
I like that comment. No is a complete sentence. There's a question about paying for health insurance, and I'll share that being only 57, I would say that was our number one stressful consideration. And our son is on our policy still, and he has a severe medical condition that requires super expensive medication. So we can't get rid of him until he is established enough to have his own health insurance. So we're actually buying it from the school district. I pay the full premium, and it's very expensive. So I would say as far as a planning thing, that was probably our number one thing that we had to think about in advance. But I think fixing the Medicare system would be better.
Just to wrap us up today, I'm keeping track of the time too. I did want to let you know, if I can make this work. There, the resources for for the introduction comments that I used today are on this slide from the Harvard Business Review, also from the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, and then the American Psychological Association too is looking at retirement from broader than just a financial perspective. And I think Sarah sent our slides out ahead of the session this morning, so you have these links available to you. And if there's any interest in getting back in touch with us, Sarah and I are both willing to take questions. And if we don't have the answers, we're good networkers, so we can point you in the right direction.